It's me, Skylar. I'm going to be telling you guys reasons of why homosexuality is not a choice and why it's just something that you are born with. It's just who you are. Um, let's get started. First reason, um, which would be number 10. Of course, it's not only due to genes. I mean, genes, genetic traits, and everything that's involved with your homosexuality, but it can't. It's obviously not the only thing that's involved because, well, for one, genes are influenced by your environment, and but there's also has to be other biological factors that are involved with this. Hold on, I was just checking the time on my phone. My videos can only be a certain amount of time, but anyways, ever since the 1990s, a number of studies have been conducted to show the link between the human brain and the sexual orientation. In 1990, a doctor named Dick Swab, sorry, and M.A. Hoffman, they found that the difference in the size of the suprachiasmatic nucleus (SCN), which is the tiny region in the hypothalamus that contains many different neurotransmitters between heterosexual and homosexual men. Their findings revealed that gay men have a larger SCN and more cell numbers than the straight men do. Another brain study has also been conducted by Dr. Simon Levay to show the difference between hypothalamus of straight and gay men. The study involved 41 subjects who have died of AIDS and studied four groups of neuro. Wait, sorry. I can't think today. The study involved 41 subjects who died of AIDS and studied four groups of neurons known as INAH1, INAH2, INAH3, and INAH4. The subjects were divided into three groups, where the first group comprised of 19 homosexual men, and the second group added 16 heterosexual men, and the third group consisted of 6 heterosexual women. And according to the findings, which were actually published in the year 1991, the Journal of Science, there was no significant difference revealed between the groups and the size of the NAH1, NAH2, and NAH4. However, the NAH3 was found to be larger in heterosexual men group than in homosexual men and heterosexual women groups. Some other studies have also found that the same significant results in other areas of the brain to determine the difference between homosexual and heterosexual men, which include the size of the corpus callosum and the structure of the medulla. And according to their findings, the corpus callosum was larger in average in gay men than in straight men in terms of nerve connections to the left side of the medulla compared with the right side, but in straight men and lesbians, the results were opposite, with more neural connections on the right side of the medulla. So our brain influencing our sexual orientation even before we are born. This one is strong evidence that explains why many gay people say they always knew that they were gay, because apparently they pretty much already did. If you ask me, just checking the time on my phone. I have to keep checking the time on my phone because it can only be a certain amount of time. But anyways, let's move on. Next one, ready. Next one. Experts believe that androgens, also known as male sex hormones, are responsible for masculine body characteristics in the human beings as well as animals. Hold on, how much time? Sorry, keep checking the time. Every time I do that, just so you know, it's because I'm checking the time. They also believe that if an individual is deprived of testosterone, at an early stage of his life, he could become homosexual in his adult life. Well, early experiments prove that the parental exposure of the androgens can largely affect the human behavior and sexual orientation. One study has been demonstrated. This was done by Dr. Gunter Dorner, who was a German entomologist. In his study in the late 1970s, he used the rats as test subject. These male rats were castrated and injected with androgens when they reached sexual maturity. As a result, these male rats behaved like female rats. Another example was a study done in 1984, which is a study done by Dr. John Money, and his team. In their study, they used 30 young women with a history of functional androgyl hyperplasia aldosterone, and an abnormal production of androgens. These individuals were asked to give sexual orientation. Were asked to give their sexual orientation, and 37% rated themselves as bisexual or homosexual. They also exhibited more masculine body and behavior. Hormones have diverse chemical structures that have powerful effects on our human body, which include growth, development, and responses. The results of the studies mentioned above suggest that abnormal exposure to male hormones can truly affect social behavior and sexual orientation. Check on the time. Okay. Next one. So now we actually know that hormones have effects on how we grow and change. But do you ever wonder how and why developing infants lack or overexposed to male hormones during pregnancy? Actually, the same question was asked by Dr. Dorner after his findings on his rat experiment were published. So to prove an answer to that question, Dr. Dorner and his team did other experimental studies to identify the factors that can cause hormone exposure variation in the womb. In 1980, Dr. Dorner and his team studied the frequency of homosexual in males who were born in Germany before and after the Second World War. And they found that out of 865 homosexual male subjects, the majority of them were born between the critical periods of the war. Checking the time more. Not that convinced with his first experiment, though. Dr. Dorner did another studied and achieved the same result. In his second study, Dr. Dorner used 100 bisexual or homosexual men as well as 100 heterosexual men. All of them were asked about the possible stressful events in their mother's experience during their time when they were being carried, when they were pregnant in the womb. Majority of the homosexual and bisexual males reported on severe stressful events that have actually occurred in their personal lifetime. The results on these studies indicated that the correlation between parental stress and homosexuality. Several experiment studies have also been conducted supporting the findings of Dr. Dorner. For instance, in 1994 study done by Dr. Ward and his colleagues, they used pregnant rats as test subjects, which they exposed to stressful situations. When these rats gave birth, the male offspring were tested and found that 73% of them exhibited female sexual behavior. Experts believe that the mothers who are exposed in stressful situations are more likely to have a male child with a female behavior. The reason for this is because stress causes fluctuation in hormonal levels. When a pregnant mother is stressed, her body produces high level of cortisol and low level of testosterone, which can largely affect the development of the human brain and the body of the developing child. Okay. Another biological factor that plays... sexuality is inherited. Another biological factor that plays a role in the development of sexual orientation is individuals and heredity. Some researchers believe that homosexuality runs in families. It means that if one in the family is homosexual, there's a higher chance that the other member of that family may be gay. There are some evidence gathered that clearly proves that one major study that links male homosexuality to heredity was done by researchers J. Winrich and R. Fillard in 1986 using a sample of 51 homosexual men and 50 heterosexual men. They found that their gay men subjects had far more than gay brothers and their straight men subjects had. From the finding, they concluded that there is a significant family relation component to male homosexuality. Other studies with similar objective have confirmed the findings of Winrich and Fillard, including 1998 study done by Bailey and Fillard entitled Human Sexual Orientation has a heritable component, as well as the 1999 study done by the same researchers entitled A Family History Study of Male Sexual Orientation using 3 independent. Both are published on PubMed. Number 5, next one, birth order significantly impacts odds of being queer. The fraternal birth order effect is also one of the reasons why there are gay men. According to several studies, each older brother increases the chances of the next son of being gay by at least 33%. This is because when a woman is actually pregnant, especially with a boy, her body can see the fetus as a foreign object and try to attack it, usually at the fetus, the brain that links to sexual orientation by producing antibodies against it. The more male son a woman has, the more adept her body becomes to attack the fetus inside of her, which increases her chance of giving birth to a gay son. In a nutshell, the more boys, the higher the chances the next son will be gay. Studies were performed by some scientists to prove this hypothesis, and one major experimental study that was done by Ray Blanchard, who was a professor of psychology at the University of Toronto. Together with his team, Blanchard collected a certain number of heterosexual and homosexual men. All of them were asked some significant questions about their sexuality. After this test was done, they found out that the homosexual men subjects had more older brothers than the heterosexual men subjects. So this shows the fraternal birth order is a significant predictor of sexual orientation. Next one, sexual orientation isn't learned. Sexual orientation is biological in nature and cannot be changed by learning some ways to be attracted to another person. Do you know a gay person who went through an educated process that taught him how to be attracted to the opposite sex? I don't think anyone does that, at least for me. I know that you see some gay men who are in a relationship with a woman, but that doesn't mean that their sexuality has changed. It could just mean that they're pretending to be like that in order so they can, a number of things, so their parents won't be mad at them, religious beliefs, blah, 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 whatever, you know what I mean. Next one. Sexual orientation isn't a choice. Human beings cannot choose to be either gay or straight. Just as what the Human Rights Campaign organization wrote on their website, sexuality and gender identity are not choices any more than being left-handed or having brown eyes or being heterosexual are choices. They are part of who you are. Although individuals can choose how they live, or rather to act or not on their feelings, experts do not consider sexual orientation to be conscious choice that can be changed whenever you want to. If you're not yet convinced, though, try to ask straight people when did they choose to be heterosexual. Or better yet, ask yourself, when did you decide to be heterosexual or homosexual? Can you give a quick answer? No. And the same is true when you ask other people. They will completely be unable to answer that question. Why? Simple. Because these people understand that their sexual orientation is natural and not something that they get to choose. Okay? I keep checking the amount of time on my phone. But anyways, to move on, and just think about those gay people that are forced by their parents to become straight. Most of them, even if they have tried to become what their parents wanted them to become, just to please them, they will remain homosexuals. It's not something that can be changed. Even if they have been put under pressure and things like that, they will still remain gay. Just as what the lyrics of the controversial song "Same Love" say, "I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to." As mentioned, we can choose how we live our lives, and even express ourselves in a way, and even express ourselves in a way that make us feel comfortable. But our sexual orientation, our inner identity is something that is beyond our control. Next one. Homosexuality is a function of biology. Here's the science. Um, there are other studies demonstrating that biology plays a major role in determining a person's sexuality. And one example is the pheromone study conducted in Sweden. This study was conducted by researchers of the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, Sweden, who was led by Ivanika Savic. Dr. Savic and her team used 36 subjects that were divided into three groups of 12, each heterosexual men, homosexual men, and a heterosexual woman. Each of them was asked to sniff a series of odors while their brain activities were being scanned. And the results of the research that were the following. When the homosexual men and the heterosexual women were exposed to the smell of testosterone, a part of their brain that plays a role in sexual response was activated. Same happened in the heterosexual men when they were exposed to smell of estrogen. His team in London. And then another study was actually conducted, the eye blinking inhibition study conducted by Dr. Kwesi Rahman and his team in London. They collected and studied different groups of individuals to determine if there are differences between the responses. Sorry. Where was I at? Conducted basically the blinking and studied different groups of individuals to determine if there are differences between the responses of male and females, as well as heterosexual and homosexuals. The subjects were exposed to different levels of noise while researchers measured their eye blink responses. After the test, Dr. Roman and his team found out that the reaction of the lesbian test subjects was closer to which would be expected among straight men, and gay men reacted closer to that of women, although to a lesser extent. So those are some reasons of why homosexuality is not something that you choose. Leave some comments below. Please don't leave any hateful comments. For one, I don't care what you say. It's not going to bug me. And for two, if you do post anything hateful or whatever, I'm just going to change the settings to where comments will be disabled. So you're wasting your time if you try to post really hateful stuff. Anyways, have a good one. Bye.